I haven't done this before. I'm currently going live on multiple platforms. So right now I'm going live on Facebook, on YouTube, and then I'm also going live on my Instagram. Going live on multiple platforms to try to be more efficient this year, trying to be able to, the whole metaphor of one stone, multiple birds. Hi to everyone on Instagram. I see you there. I see your comments coming through. Big hello to you all. Thank you for joining me for the live sessions that I'm running in multiple different places. So I'm going to have to get used to seeing comments here on YouTube, on Facebook, and then comments also on Instagram. Yeah, I know it's weird, Kung, but I'm trying to be more effective. Good to see you all. Thank you for those of you joining on Facebook and YouTube, and for those of you joining on Instagram as well. Good to see you all. Thank you. Now, Happy New Year. Oh my goodness. Happy New Year to everyone. Far out. Can you believe we're in 2023 already? Oh gosh, I feel like we've just, I know we just started 2023, but far out. It still feels a little bit like 2022, to be honest with you. I haven't felt like we've bumped over yet, so it's a bit strange. But look, I would love to do a bit of Q&A with you all. So I'm going to look to all the different platforms for some questions. If you've got any questions you want to ask me, if you've got any topics you want me to jam on, let's do a bit of jamming. Let's do a bit of connecting. Let's do a little bit of a chin wag, as we say in Australia. Chin wags because you wag your chin and you just talk to each other. Oh, Anav just said that they bought my course and they're loving it. Thank you, Anav. Thank you for joining the Stage Academy. Thanks for being a part of the Stage crew. Look, I've even got some merch. I'm going to hit some merch up this year, I reckon. I've always wanted to create some merchandise, so excited to do that this year. That's something that's going to change. A question on Instagram from Ren. And Ren says, Vin, how did you get into this line of work? Ren, I got into teaching communication skills almost accidentally. I mean, there's a deeper purpose behind why I do it now. But essentially, when I first started, it was something that I was teaching to magicians. I would spend a lot of my time teaching magicians what magicians call showmanship. And then I just had one of my friends who's in the corporate world said, hey, Vin, we actually need you to teach us some showmanship. Could you teach us as well? And I kind of at the start said, no, I can't. I only do this for magicians. And then he said something that was really profound. He said to me, well, Vin, us here in the finance industry, we're people. And when you teach magicians, you're also teaching people. So could you just come over here and teach us some communication skills? And then I kind of went, oh yeah, okay. Everyone's human. I guess I can. And then I started teaching communication skills in the finance world. And then now I kind of do it for people in the finance space, medical space, tech space. If you're a human, I most likely can teach you communication skills. So it was a bit of a reframe that I had to make. Well, thank you for the question there. I appreciate it. Now, also showing my YouTube and Facebook fam some love. Oh my God, I feel like I'm looking everywhere. All right, I got a question here from Facebook from Kevin. What's your New Year resolution? Kevin, I give myself permission to have all year-round resolutions. I don't kind of just leave it to January. I do it all throughout the year. And I tend to do it in alignment with me rearranging certain rooms in my house. So I have to pair it with that, because to me, a new space is inspiring for new routines, new habits that I want to develop. So I'm fully redoing my studio in my garage at the moment, which is aligned with the new year. And a big resolution for me is to do more things online. A huge part of my business is centered around me flying to a certain location. For example, this March, I'm spending a whole month in March in the US and Canada, where I'm doing a full speaking tour for a whole month. Now, while I love that, I want to do more things online. I want to run more online masterclasses. I want to create more online courses. I want to create more online content. So a big resolution for me this year is to create more content, more online courses, more masterclass experiences online. That's a huge resolution for me. Thank you for the question. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about it. Question here from Instagram, I see. Dude has a kid. Dude has a kid. Why you guys ask if he's a virgin? That's quite hilarious. Thank you for that question, which was slightly unusual. I do have a child, and no, I'm not a virgin, because that would be strange if I was a virgin and had a child somehow. Be a bloody miracle. That's what it would be. A question from YouTube, sharing the love. All the way here from South Africa. When can we expect you to come and do a workshop in South Africa? Unfortunately, the only place I do my in-person classes at the moment, it's in South Australia. I run them in a small theater here. I mean, I say small theater, but it packs 200 people, but I don't do it for 200 people. My classes are around 50 to 75 people max. So I book out a 200 plus seat theater for about 50 to 75 people. It's a very intimate experience. So for those of you who, if you don't know, if you want to join me, my next in-person stage workshop is on February the 4th to the 5th, where again, it's a very intimate class and I've got people usually coming from all over the world. If you want to join me to learn more about storytelling, vocal mastery, body language, how to use metaphors and analogies and similes, and also how to actively listen more effectively, join me for a 2 full jam-packed day workshop. I'd love to have you. I'll make sure I leave the links in the comments or description or bio later. I feel very all over the place with all these platforms. Getting used to it, learning something new, putting myself out there, getting a little uncomfortable. Love seeing the hearts from your Instagram. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm feeling so much love here from my Instagram tribe. Thank you. Lots of love to you all. A quick question here from, again, just people wanting me to visit Dubai. Unfortunately, not going to Dubai, my friend, at this point in time. However, Dubai is definitely a place I really want to visit. It's on my bucket list with my wife. I've only been to Dubai in transit. I've never actually explored Dubai. However, my son Xander, he watches a whole bunch of shows, kids shows on YouTube where a lot of them live in Dubai. There are so many things to do in Dubai for children. So we definitely cannot wait to go there as a family and explore Dubai. Very excited. All right. Very kind words from people on Facebook saying I've got a nice voice. So thank you, Seema. I appreciate that. And Jessica says, I'd love to do a workshop. Jessica, I'd love to have you. Jessica on Facebook, love to have you join me for a workshop sometime. Look, and one of the main reasons why I do all of my workshops at the moment in South Australia is because I've got a young family. I've got a 5-year-old son. And to me, one of my biggest commitments that I'm making as I move forward in my life is the commitment to family. Whereas before, I had a family 3-4 years ago as well and a son. But for me, I prioritize my work while I said that I was working because I said my priorities were family back then. However, really, I prioritize the work. And in one of the tests that I put myself through is every year I sit down and I check in on what my values are, right? And what I do is I write down, okay, so Vin, you say your value is family. What are the top 10 actions you took this past year to really show that you value family? Oh, Vin, you said you value health. What are the top 10 pieces of evidence you can show me where you valued health? Oh, Vin, you said you value generosity. What are the last 10 actions you took where you showed that you were generous? And it's interesting because for a long time, I said that family was my biggest value. However, when I put myself through that test, I go, well, where are the 10 pieces of evidence? Couldn't find it. So then I had a bit of a reality slap. Vin, you said fitness was a big goal for you. Well, tell me, where are the last 10 big goals you kicked in the fitness world? No, there isn't any. So that's what allows me to be honest with myself and for me to be, it's being self-critical in a way, but it's also, checking in. You check in with yourself. Are you being honest or are you just kind of allowing yourself to get away with a lot of shit, right? Whereas if I don't do this check with myself, I give myself permission to get away with so much. Oh, man. If I don't do this, I'd be the laziest person on earth. So to me, this process of checking in with yourself allows me to create a life that is more aligned with my values. And back to what I was saying originally, that's one of the main key reasons as to why I do my workshops in South Australia, because then it minimizes travel. And therefore, when I minimize travel, I spend more time with my family. Big piece of evidence there. The reason why Vin does his workshops in South Australia, because being with his family is one of his highest values. It just allows me to be in more alignment. So then I don't feel shitty about myself at the end of the year where I'm like, oh, I say I value family, but I don't really, do I? So again, there you go. Just checking over here for some questions. Lots of love to you all on Facebook. Thanks, Datton. Massive shout out to you. I appreciate it. I got a question here from YouTube, which is from Daliso. And Daliso says, what's been the most difficult part of your rebrand? Letting go and being focused. The letting go and being focused video. Daliso, thank you for your question. And thank you again. I see you all here on Instagram still. Thanks for the love. But the question here from Daliso. Daliso says, Vin, what's been the hardest thing about your rebrand? Now, what Daliso is referring to there is, I had a YouTube channel about 6 months ago that I closed down. And I've been building that old YouTube channel for about 9 years, and it had about 40,000 subscribers on it. And I decided to close it down, because I believe in fresh starts. There's something about a fresh start that just feels good. There's something about just starting from scratch that allows you the freedom of being a beginner again. So I chose to close down that channel. And if you search on YouTube hard enough, you will find that video, that last video I made, the goodbye video for that channel. It's still up. And I closed that channel about 4 or 5 months ago, and I started a channel from scratch. Now, remember, the old channel, I had about 40,000 subscribers, and it took me 9 years to build that following. So closing it down was really hard. Now, the crazy thing is, when I started fresh and I started a whole new rebrand for YouTube, in the last 4 months, we've amassed over 300,000 subscribers. And when you ask me about why I think that happened, one of the main reasons why I think that happened is because when you allow yourself to be a beginner again, when you start from scratch, one of the most beautiful things about it is that you allow yourself to be a beginner again. And when you're a beginner again, guess what? You take chances. You take more risks, right? You allow yourself to explore more. You play more. Whereas before, because I had already an established channel, I felt like I kind of had to play within this boundary or that boundary. And what's crazy is it was one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. So to me, when you ask me the question of, how did the rebrand go, or how do you feel about rebrands? I think they're great because it allows you to be a beginner again. And when you adopt the beginner mindset, especially when you're starting from scratch again, it just allows you to take more risks. And it just reminds me the importance of taking risks and not playing it too safe. Otherwise, we tend to get a bit complacent, don't we, in life, in any area of life. Once we get complacent, we kind of just stick with that one path and do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And that's how monotony starts to creep into our lives. And it's how we all, regardless of what age, we fall into what's known as a midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis. It's when things are done over and over and over and over again in the same way. Right, you get a bit bored. I like variety, and yeah, so there you go. There's that. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. Thanks to the YouTube tribe. Question from Instagram. Do you talk in the same manner all the time? No, I don't. No, I don't. There's something I teach called vocal archetypes, and this question is for Instagram, so I'll look at Instagram. But again, I have different archetypes depending on who I'm talking to, depending on the context, depending on the situation, depending on the emotional environment. There's so much that comes into play, and then that determines how I use my voice, and I'll change my voice depending on the situation, right? This is kind of an archetype that I use when I want to engage others online. And you've got to appreciate, right, that when you're communicating online, you have to amp yourself up a little more. Otherwise, if I'm super comfortable and I just talk like this, this is how I generally talk if I'm just sitting on the couch and, I'm just talking to a friend who's right next to me and I don't really have to give any energy. But you'd have to admit, this is a little bit boring, isn't it? So again, there are many different vocal archetypes, meaning we use our voices in different places in different ways, and we have different characters that live within us. You've got different characters that work within you. When you get super angry, what happens to your voice? You use it differently. When you're really loving and you're on a date and you want to be a little bit sexy, you use your voice differently as well. So again, it's really about learning how to use our voices differently in all different situations and then mastering the different vocal archetypes that exist. So again, I don't always talk like this. No, this is just an archetype that is very effective and useful when I'm engaging online and I'm doing lives. So this is a specific archetype of mine. All right, shifting over the questions over here. Thank you, Hilda from YouTube, for joining my new YouTube channel. Thanks for being a subscriber. I appreciate you very much indeed. On Facebook, question from Jenny. Jenny says, what do you think we should practice if we aren't really present mentally, but we want to be more present? Look, if you want to be more present, Jenny, and you want to be more present when you're communicating with others, I really feel like the first thing you've got to do is, I mean, you're already doing it, is you've got to make the conscious decision to be more present. And I think you also should remove your phone. Any devices that you have, this is not a phone, it's a GoPro, but pretend it's a phone. Remove all things that could distract you from being present. So the first thing I would do is I would remove the phone from that very room that I'm in. So if I want to be more present with my son, I want to be more present with my wife or with my friends, I'll take my phone, I'll walk to another room and leave it in another room and put it on silent. And then I'll walk back without one of the modern day distractors. Get rid of it. Put it in a different room. Turn it off if you have to. Put it on silent. Put it on no disturb mode, whatever it is. And then I would then return to that room with the mindset that I'm going to be present. And to me, those two moves really, I feel, will help you become more present with the people that you're with. It's crazy how distracting our phone is. And look, I'm human. I'm just like you. I get distracted by the phone all the time. So for me, I consciously now make the effort to always put the phone in a separate room anytime I want to be more present. So hopefully that helps, Jenny. Cheers for the question. Thanks for being a part of my Facebook tribe, Jenny. Cheers. All right. Looking for some more questions here. And thank you for the question. Thank you for sitting with me. Thanks for hanging with me. I appreciate there's about 1,000 of you across all platforms. So thank you. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for jumping on and hanging out with me. It's nice to be able to get to know you all. Thank you. A question here from Instagram from Samir. How do you relax, Vin? Samir, thank you for the question. How does Vin relax? Samir, I've got many different hobbies. I love archery. So to me, when I do archery, it's a form of relaxation for me. I also play games. I play Age of Empires 4. Last night, my wife was kind enough to allow me to play a little bit of games. I played for a good 2 hours, squeezed 3 games in of Age of Empires 4. We rushed all 3 times and we won all 3 times. So to me, these are very relaxing activities for me. I really enjoy camping as well. Camping, being outdoors, building a fire, sitting back on a camping chair, looking at the stars. These are very rejuvenating things for me to do. And I call these in my life menu items. And I've never been very clear on what my menu items were until I started to, build a business and start to teach online, have a speaking career, have an online course, and create content on all these different platforms. I didn't realize the value of menu items, meaning the things that make me relax and help rejuvenate me. I didn't realize how important they were until I started to move into the realm of high performance and do a lot of things with very little time. Then I started to realize that, hey, I actually need things that relax me, because when I do things that relax me, I come back, I'm more rejuvenated, therefore you get a better version of me, right? Right now, I feel you're getting a better version of me because I just went away for a good 2 weeks with my family and we did a bunch of things that were very relaxing. And I say all of this because I encourage you all to have a really clear list of menu items that are guilt-free. So a list of menu items that you can go to when you're feeling a little bit burnt out. We don't just feel burnt out at the end of the year. I feel we burnt out throughout the year. There are many moments where you start to feel burnt out throughout the year. And just having a very clear list of menu items you can go to help you feel less burnt out is really, really important. So for me, there are top 3 things there. Love archery, love playing games, love camping, and love being outdoors. I've got lots of other hobbies, but yeah, time. Being a parent, being a husband, you run out of time very, very quickly. Thank you for the question on Instagram there. Thank you. Much love. Jumping over here. Madness on YouTube says he loves me. Love you too. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sammy's got a question here. Sammy, or maybe it's just the statement, but Sammy says, I just wanted to say thanks for showing your journey. I know it might feel hard to watch your old videos and share them, but it gives me hope. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Sammy, I post a lot of my old videos on my online course just to show people where I started. And every time I watch it, Sammy, it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. It does. Makes me cringe a little bit. But I realize the importance of sharing the complete journey and not hiding any of it. Whereas I think a lot of the times we just want to show our perfect selves, don't we? We want to show the world, no, I've always been like this. I've always spoke like this. Not true. No. It wasn't innate. It wasn't a gift. This is a skill, and it's a skill I've developed over many years. And the thing is, if I can develop it, you can too. Because remember, my friends, you all know me most likely because of communication skills. I teach communication. That's what I do. Now, just know that it's a series of behaviors. That's all that it is. When you talk, it's just a series of behaviors. And I love using this example. I spent a lot of time in the US, and one of my favorite states is Texas. Love Texas, love slow cooked meats. And I've got lots of Texan friends, and I love the way Texans talk. I mean, if I was going to pretend to be Texan for a moment, it's hard for you to tell if this is my real accent or not, right? I mean, I don't know. Is this a good Texan accent? I love my slow cooked meats, and I love being a cowboy. Look, I'm just changing the way I'm moving my mouth. I'm changing a few key behaviors, and then I sound as if I'm Texan. Or I could bloody put on a full-blown Australian accent if I really wanted to, eh? Hey, all right, that's a fair shake of the sauce bottle, mate. And then all of a sudden, I sound overly Australian. Whereas the accent I kind of have now, it's a mix of Australian, a bit of American, a bit of English. It's kind of like a universal accent. I don't even know what it is anymore. But basically, it's just a series of behaviors. And with that simple example of what I just showed you, it proves that we can change the way we sound by learning a new set of behaviors. And often people fall into the trap of thinking that, the way I speak, it's permanent. I'm not going to be able to change it. I'm going to sound like this for the rest of my life. It's a little bit dramatic, and it's not true. We can change the way we speak. We can change the way we communicate, because it's just a series of behaviors. That's all. All right. Jumping back on Instagram here, having a look at some of the comments coming through. Stay healthy. Love to see you like this. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. I hope to stay healthy too myself. Thank you. We got people from Poland. That's amazing. How do you self-motivate? Interesting question from Instagram. It's one of those things where I see a bit of a loop, right? And people think that we should sit around, and this came from Mark Manson. He's got a great book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. And in that book, Mark highlights that people tend to think we need to sit around to wait to be motivated. And it's true. Sometimes we search for motivation on Instagram. We search for motivation in our environment. Sometimes we search for motivation in books. Sometimes we fall into the mindset of thinking, I'm going to sit around and wait to be motivated. Whereas the reality is, it's true. You can sit and wait for motivation, or you can go out there, take action, because motivation doesn't just come out of thin air or from an Instagram video. Motivation also can be generated through action. So for me, the way I stay motivated is when I'm feeling like, I'm not really motivated today, then I'll just start to take some action. Right. So again, I can tell you with a hand on my heart, this morning when I woke up and I started working again, I kind of went, I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know if I want to jump on all those emails. A lot of emails came through during the break. So I sat there and I went, you know what? I'm just going to take action. I'm going to do the hardest thing first. And the hardest thing for me today was recording a few coaching videos. And I just did those things first. And once I took action, I did those things. Guess what followed? Started to feel motivated. And then once I was motivated, I used that fuel source to do the things that I needed to do. So for me, I don't wait for motivation to find me. I take action. And in the process of taking action, I generate motivation. That's how I view it. Thanks for the question from Instagram. Moving over to YouTube and Facebook now. Quite dramatic the way I'm doing this. It always blows my mind. I've just saw a comment from Yukashtu, who says, I'm from Wakili from Nigeria. I love your stuff, Vin. That's amazing you're tuning in from Nigeria. I still am blown away by the reach that I have. It's unbelievable. So thank you for joining all the way. And I love you too, mate. Cheers for sending the good vibes my way. Thank you. All right. Now, I've got a question here from Munir. Munir says, how can I make the decision to start something else for my career, which I believe in, and it's completely in the opposite direction to what I'm doing at the moment? So Mania is asking a question about, look, I'm currently going one direction and I want to go a completely different direction. What do you think about that? Look, not a career counselor. Please understand that anything that I say from this point, this is just friends sharing thoughts. By no means is this advice. I think it's very irresponsible for me to give you advice because I don't know you, Mania. However, we can jam on this topic as friends, just kind of jam on it, right? But please remember, it's not advice. You do your own thinking, you do your own due diligence. For me, what I'll say, Mania, is that when it comes to career, I was studying accounting and law, and then I became a magician. I mean, I don't think there's a 180 more dramatic than that. And for me, one of the reasons why I would say to do it is because this life is so short. You know, when you really sit down and you think about how long we have to live, let's say most men get to 86 and most women get to 88, 89. You ladies live longer than us because you manage stress better than us men. So if I've only got 86 years to live, I'm currently 36. Fingers crossed, I've got another 50 years. I'm close to halfway. So for me, I want to do as many different things as I can in my life, because in my life, one of my biggest values is variety. I love variety, whether it's food, whether it's activities, whether it's career. I love variety. And one of my biggest beliefs is that a book, what makes a book really exciting? What makes a book really interesting? Well, to me, what makes a book really interesting is a book with many different chapters you didn't see coming. So for me, if my life was to represent a book, I want to write lots of different chapters. I want to experience lots of different things. And because that is in alignment with my values, Mania, what I would do is I would go for it. And that's me. But that's me, though. And you've got to check in with your values. Make sure this decision is aligned with your values. Because if you really value stability, and if you really value, climbing the corporate ladder and etc., then maybe it isn't aligned with your values. Maybe you shouldn't make that decision. When making these big decisions in life, I check in with my values. And I go, is that aligned with the values? And if it's aligned, hell yeah, do it. What are you waiting for? Life's too short, right? However, if it's not aligned, no, don't do it. Stop, put the brakes on, stick to where you're at. And that's why it's so dangerous giving advice through social media online, because you don't know the person, and even more, you don't know their value system. And that's why I'll say it's so critical for you, Mania, and to all of you joining, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. It's so important for us to be able to take the time to work out what our values are and have clarity on what our values are. Because if you don't know what your values are, then you're making decisions in the dark. And I find that a lack of clarity with our values, that's the biggest problem, because it tends to lead us to making decisions that are not aligned. It's worth taking the time to sit down and think about what your core values are and just having them really clear. I have my values in front of my journal. So I've got a journal I write in. This is an old journal, it's 2021. But I write down all my biggest values at the front of my journal. So I keep it top of mind. And it's interesting because your values change from year to year. This weekend, I'm about to go away for 4 or 5 days to really get clear on what my values are for 2023. And I already know what 3 of them are going to be: freedom, flexibility, and fun, right? And by knowing what my values are, it helps me make decisions. For example, I wasn't going to go on this family trip with my wife and my son. My wife and my son were about to go to Malaysia mid-January. And I was like, probably not going to go. I've got a lot of work that I need to do. And then I reflected on that for a few days and I went, you know what? No. I said, this year I'm going to prioritize flexibility in my business, freedom and fun. And me being able to go on this holiday with my wife and my son is me living out my values of freedom, flexibility and fun. Bugger it. I'm going. So then my wife booked me a ticket just now. So I'm joining them on the family holiday. And I was about to say no to it because I was living on the previous year values, right? And the previous year values in 2021 was to stabilize the business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas now the business is stable. Change the values, baby. Update the values, update the decisions, live a more aligned life. It's one of those things where I think if we don't keep track of these things, we start to fall into misalignment, and then we live a life that creates a lot of unhappiness. So there you go. Oh, lots of love from Malaysia. I'm going to Malaysia very, very soon. I got a question here. How do you know Hithrik Roshan? You know what's crazy? I had Hithrik, who's an incredible actor out of India. He's one of the most influential actors in India. He reached out to me on social media looking for some coaching. So maybe this year, Hithrik and I will be doing some work together. It's pretty cool. Very, very, very cool. And yes, just quickly, I saw a Naruto thing there. I love Naruto. Massive follower of that. Watched every episode. Massive fan. Question here from Facebook. What's the best way to build up on your personality so people will like you? Look, I think personality development is very much like being a chef. So if you follow a lot of my content, you may have heard this before, but I look at building who you are as a bit of a chef. And what I mean is this. As I was building Vinh Giang and who I am and who you see today, I didn't build this out of nowhere. I built this out of people that I like. So for example, think of yourself as a chef. Now, how does a chef become a great chef? A chef becomes a great chef by looking at other great chefs and then borrowing their recipes. So if I wanted to be a great chef, I'd look at 5 chefs that I really like. I'd look at their top recipes. I'd borrow their recipes, and then I would start cooking their dishes, right? Same thing with a communicator. If you want to be a great communicator, pick 5 communicators that you really like. Pick 5. It could be any 5. Pick 5. So pick 5 communicators that you really like, and then identify key behavioral traits that they exhibit. So for one person, it could be their facial expressions. For one person, it could be their body language. For the other person, it could be their storytelling ability. For one person, it could be their energy. And then I would copy and imitate those key things. I'll try on those behaviors. And then I'll try them on. And then guess what happens when you try them on? You try them on, you go, oh, I didn't like that energy. It felt a bit weird on me. I like watching it, but I don't really like doing it. Cool. Put it aside. Don't do it anymore. And I went through this process through many years. And as a result of doing this, I've been able to take key behavioral traits from key different communicators to create the version of Vinh you see here before you today. And again, people are so attached to how they sound that they don't give themselves the freedom to doing this. Because often when people try a new behavior with their communication skills, they immediately think, oh, no, that's inauthentic. That's not me. I can't do that. Why not? That's the you for today. Why can't that be a new version of you tomorrow? Why can't there be a new version of you tomorrow? Why not? We are constantly evolving. We are never stationary. We are constantly in motion in this life. So to me, give yourself that freedom. And something you'll hear me say a lot in my courses, in person and my online courses, is this. Don't be so attached to who you are in the present that you don't give the future version of yourself a chance. Don't be so attached to who you are in the present. My goodness, give yourself the opportunity to evolve. Give yourself the opportunity to be able to grow. Otherwise, we tend to have this fixation. We tend to have this addiction to staying the same. No, my friends, we are never stationary. We are always in motion. So that's something that's very important to keep in mind. Just having a look at some of the questions that's coming through. I've got questions from all over the place. It's kind of cool looking at all these different screens. Look, I just quickly wanted to share with you all too as we round out this live session. And one of the things I wanted to say to you all is that I have a couple of classes coming up. I've got a virtual class, a virtual masterclass coming up. And with my virtual masterclass, you can join from anywhere in the world. I will make sure I leave my stage virtual masterclass details because I know I've got a lot of followers from all over the world. And if you ever want to join me for 5 days, 2 hours each day, as we deep dive into vocal mastery, storytelling, body language, the use of metaphors, analogies, and similes, and also active listening, join me for a virtual masterclass. Or if you can't join during those times, then join me for an in-person class. I do in-person classes in South Australia. Or if you can't do any of those, I also have an online course called the Stage Academy. I'd love to have you join me in my stage tribe. Thank you to all of you on Facebook, on YouTube. I really appreciate you being a part of my tribe. And also Instagram, thank you so much for being such great supporters of what I do as well. And as I close out, I'll leave all the links in the comments or the links are in my bio. I just wanted to say that, remember, your voice is an instrument that can truly change the way people feel. And you just changing the way you use your voice later on this evening, later on this morning, depending on where you're tuning in from, just you shifting the way you use your voice, it can completely change the way people experience the rest of their day. Use your voice to spread love, kindness, and compassion. Much love, my friends. Thank you for joining me as I sign out, first of all, on Instagram, and then also as I sign out on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for being a part of my tribe. Much love. Happy New Year. See you around.